Before we get into this full day of eating, you might see this glass a few times. Now this glass is a glass that I haven't washed for over a year because it simply contains my bacteria and some food solids. That's it. There's no downside to not washing this glass, it simply contains the bacteria from my food and from my mouth. That's it. And I don't understand why I would want to remove that. The glass looks dirty because of all the milk solids. You see, this is just dried up milk solids, which is another word for cheese. This stuff right here is what I drink when I don't have any milk. I haven't had milk for a few days because I'm all out of milk and I'm going to get milk on Thursday for specific reasons. Therefore, this will be a full day of eating without any raw milk. You see, nowadays we have to package meat in plastic, and what happens is the plastic leaves residues on the meat, especially if it's fatty meat, because fat breaks down plastic. So what you have to do is you have to scrape the meat. If you don't scrape the meat, you're going to eat plastic. If you scrape the surface of the meat lightly, you're going to remove unnecessary plastic residues. Now, this isn't a perfect method, but it certainly does reduce the plastic. I put the meat in a bowl with warm water to heat it up. Now before I do this, I flatten out the meat so that when we heat it up, the process is faster. When I put the bowl in the water, I spin it around so that the cold water that, gets cold because of the cold meat doesn't stick around the bowl so that it moves around. And obviously here I'm just flipping the meat and putting it back in so that the other side can get heat. Now, although this ground beef contains 20% fat, we still want more fat. This is true raw beef fat. And you see this? You see how this surface is different than this surface? That's because the butcher that I get this from dry ages this, so it's much more dense than normal beef fat. This is much cheaper than butter or avocados or any other fat source in my experience, so that's why I stick to this. Because again, we have to make this diet sustainable, and if there's no difference between this, no big difference at least, between this and butter, well then why not go for this? Oh, and by the way, this does taste better than butter, than avocado, and even bone marrow. And this, my friend, is the first meal of the day. Just came back from having been outside, now I'm going to eat an orange, but before I eat this orange, I'm going to eat a few pieces of fat, raw fat, so that the blood sugar spike isn't as high, because let's face it, this thing right here contains a little bit of sugar. I'm mainly eating this for vitamin C, for hydration, and the hydration is especially important because I don't have milk today, so this is extra necessary. Wait, excellent health, this is a full day of eating video. I want to see what you're going to eat. I don't want to see you sitting in your normal place where you record videos. Well, here's the thing, I set out to record this full day of eating, and you know what happened? I only ate that much for the entire day. And I think I drank a glass of apple cider vinegar and water. You know, that mixture I showed you in the beginning. I drank that. I think this happened because when I don't have milk for prolonged periods of time, I'm not feeding my gut microbiome with anything. So you either consume starch to feed your gut microbiome or fruit, but I personally think starch is better because that's what humans, indigenous people generally use. They don't eat a lot of fruit. They usually prefer starch as a carbohydrate source, at least a staple carbohydrate source, or you feed it through fermented foods. And my fermented food is fermented raw milk. And if I don't have that, well then my gut microbiome suffers a little bit, and what happens is my appetite goes down, so I can't eat as much. I see two lessons here actually. If you don't feel like eating, don't eat, because you're just gonna stress your digestive system. Again, the bacteria digest the food. If you don't have enough bacteria and your body isn't hungry, well then you shouldn't feed it. Okay, unless you have some other issue that requires food, but that's very hard, then we get into the specifics, and I don't want to do that because again, you have to feel this stuff out. And the other lesson is that if you're struggling to put on weight, make sure that you're eating fermented foods, make sure that you're incorporating starches, because you need to feed your gut microbiome. Again, I'm usually on the raw primal side of things. I don't really like cooked food, but I'm going to experiment with cooked food in the future because being stagnant from a dietary perspective is a really bad idea. You need to continuously try new ideas that are still plausible within the context of dietary rules. And speaking of dietary rules, I just released the 10 dietary rules. It's a document where I share my 10 most valuable rules when it comes to nutrition, the things I've learned, and the things that, you know, they're really lessons that you can't be wrong about, because they're more objective than an opinion. I mean, when it comes to opinion, we can talk about what's the best carb source, is it fruit or is it starches, but these things are, okay, you need to eat high quality food, and then I actually explain what a high quality food is, and so on and so forth. So it's completely free by the way. All you have to do is go to excellentlyhealthy.com. You know, the link that I usually refer to when I talk about how to get the 6 health commandments. Instead of getting to the 6 health commandments, now you get to the 10 dietary rules. You just put in your email and your name, and then when you hit the yes, give me the document button, you're going to be forwarded to the 6 health commandments, but that doesn't mean anything. There's just not a confirmation page on my website right now. You'll have gotten it in the mail. With that said, I hope this was beneficial. I'll make more full day of eating videos in the future when I'm actually eating more carbs, which is an experiment I'm going to do. I'm going to increase the amount of cooked starch, because it seems like, you know, Ogenes said certain things, but I believe there is value to what Varys Ahmad is saying when it comes to eating more starch if you want to develop. I'm going to see how that applies to weight gain, mental clarity, blah blah blah, many things, and I'm going to report back to you, because again, that's what I do. You're here so that I can give you everything that I have, so that you can live, you know, as well as you can from a health perspective, from a nutritional perspective. With that said, go and achieve excellent health. I know you can do it.